Substantially because of the way Gloucester treats Edmund, Edmund becomes enraged and he conspires against his father. And this conspiracy involves deception of his father. One of the things we see is that Gloucester is very easily deceived. Gloucester is said to be credulous. That is, he's easily deceived. As Gloucester hears the details of this conspiracy, as Edmund pulls Gloucester in, easily deceives Gloucester into thinking that Gloucester's other son, Edmund, is out to get him. That is, Gloucester believes that Edgar is his enemy. Gloucester believes this. Edmund convinces him of this with great ease. Gloucester, of course, doesn't know that Edmund is the person who's putting together the conspiracy. Gloucester is easily deceived. Gloucester can recognize that he has a big problem on his hands. He does have a son who's against him. He thinks it's Edgar, actually it's Edmund, but he does in reality have a son against him. Now, ideally, we would think that maybe Gloucester would take a moment here to reflect. Well, if I have a son against me, why? What are the reasons my son is against me? We get nothing of this in Lear. Gloucester immediately believes Edmund's deception. He immediately turns against Edgar, and he immediately begins to blame his problems on things outside of himself. Gloucester says, "These late eclipses in the sun and moon portend no good to us." In other words, what's happening to me is the result of things external to me. Things happening in the heavens, eclipses, prophecies, these things are responsible for what's happening to me. I'm a victim. This is what Gloucester's saying. I'm a victim. I'm a victim of things over which I have no control. That's why this is happening to me. That's why I have a son against me. Now, sometimes people are victims. And sometimes people really are. They pay a heavy price because of things that happen out of their control. But that's not the case here. Gloucester is facing the trouble that he's facing substantially because of things he's done, because of things he has said. But it's easier to be a victim. It's easier to claim victim status than it is to look for one's own responsibility. And so Gloucester looks to blame things that have happened in heaven, these eclipses that portend no good to me. As Shakespeare often does, he puts words of wisdom into the mouths of bad people. It's not hard to understand why Edmund is so angry. It's not hard to understand why Edmund conspires against his father. I don't think there are many people who would want to justify Edmund and what he does. But it's not hard to understand why Edmund is so angry. After Gloucester walks off the scene, Edmund delivers this gem of realism, responding to his father's appeal to victimhood. Edmund says, "This is the excellent foppery of the world. This is the absolute stupidity of the world. That when we are sick in fortune, that is, when things don't go well for us, often the surfeit of our own behavior, not always, but often, because of things we ourselves have done, we make guilty of our disasters the sun, the moon, and the stars, as if we were villains on necessity, as if things external to me are forcing me to be a villain, as if things happening in the heavens are forcing me to be a fool, as if I'm a knave, a thief, or a traitor because of things happening with the sun, the moon, and the stars." Well, this is the excellent stupidity of the world. Blaming problems we bring on ourselves on things external to us. This, of course, is a theme that comes and goes through the play, the theme of responsibility, accepting responsibility. We say in a different discussion There are moments where Gloucester seems to get insight, but then at the very end of the play, I personally am not convinced that he ever really does get it. It does seem that Lear eventually gets it, but unfortunately, by that time, it's too late. We don't want to look to Edmund as as a great ethical teacher, right? He doesn't merit that. We understand why he's angry, but he certainly does evil, and he makes a difficult situation much worse. And it's a tragedy, so like pretty much everyone else in the play, with a couple exceptions, Edmund dies. And he dies as a result of things that he does. And so his rage leads to the destruction, yes, of his father, but it also leads to his own destruction. Rage often does do that, leads to the destruction of the person who nurses it. But at least Edmund understood that the evil he was pursuing, again, we understand his rage, but the evil that he was pursuing, he understood, that he was doing it, and he understood why he was doing it. And when he brings trouble on himself, I think he recognizes that, I do bear some responsibility. This is the excellent foppery, the excellent stupidity of the world, that when we are sick in fortune, when things don't go well for us, often because of what we ourselves do, we make guilty of our disasters the sun, the moon, and the stars. Sometimes the problems we have are really the result of things that happen externally. They are the result of things that happen over which we have no control. But often that's not the case. Often we make our lives more difficult than they need to be. Often we bring hardship on ourselves because of things we ourselves do. And one of the useful things we can reflect on as we consider this play is the way people brought unnecessary trouble on themselves. The way people brought unnecessary trouble on themselves, even as they played the victim. And that's something that I think we want to avoid.